Julia Roberts discovered something devastating about her family history in 2023. While filming a genealogy show, she learned her ancestors owned enslaved people on a 2,000-acre farm. Children as young as 6 worked there. She looked visibly shaken as the truth unfolded. But that revelation came at the worst possible time. She was already facing career troubles and personal controversies. Her marriage was under strain. Her latest projects were failing. The woman who once ruled Hollywood was watching everything fall apart. The timing wasn't coincidental. Something bigger was happening. Julia Fiona Roberts came into the world on October 28, 1967, inside Crawford Long Hospital in Atlanta. She arrived as the youngest of 3 children in a home filled with theater scripts, worn costumes, and parents who lived for the stage. Walter Grady Roberts and Betty Lou Bredemus had met while performing for the United States Armed Forces, and by the time Julia was born, they were already struggling to pay their bills because theater work had slowed down after the Vietnam years. They were so broke that they could not even cover the cost of Julia's birth. Then, something unexpected happened. Coretta Scott King, the widow of Martin Luther King Jr., quietly paid the entire bill. She did it because the Roberts family had run the only racially integrated theater workshop in Atlanta, and the King children had attended classes there. Yolanda King had even been coached by Walter. So this moment was not random kindness. It came from shared values and real connection at a time when segregation shaped almost every corner of the South. The story feels almost unreal now, yet it shows how 2 families met in a space built on courage and art. Julia grew up with a mixed heritage that stretched across English, Scottish, Irish, Welsh, German, and Swedish roots. Her mother was Catholic, and her father was Baptist, so the home carried 2 sets of traditions at once. Their acting workshop in Atlanta became a refuge for kids from every background, even though racial divides still stood strong in the late 1960s. Early photos show Julia as a tiny toddler wandering near the workshop, unaware that she was learning about storytelling before she could even write her own name. Her parents poured their beliefs into that space, but behind the scenes things were already fragile. Walter's health began to fail, and the family's money problems grew while they tried to keep the school running. Still, Julia's world stayed full of voices, rehearsals, and imagination. It shaped her without her even realizing it. The moment Coretta Scott King paid the hospital bill sits like a quiet turning point in Julia's early life. It happened in 1967 when her parents were nearly out of options. Theater jobs had faded, bills piled up, and they felt the weight of the times pressing on them. Yet the Kings stepped in because they saw the Roberts family as part of something bigger than themselves. Bernice King later confirmed the story publicly, calling it a symbol of her parents' generosity. That single act not only helped the Roberts family survive a financial crisis, but it also carved a deeper impression on Julia. She would grow up with an understanding of compassion and justice that came from real people, not textbooks. Photos from Julia's early years capture her roaming around Decatur, Georgia, not far from her parents' acting school. She was surrounded by props and performers and the constant hum of rehearsals. But life inside the house was not as peaceful as the photos suggest. Walter's health kept slipping, and financial pressure followed close behind. Even so, the workshop stayed alive and became a place of creativity for the whole neighborhood. Julia absorbed the stories, the movement, the emotion, and even the tension. All of it stayed with her as she grew older. In 1972, everything shifted again. Julia was only 4 when her parents divorced after 17 years of marriage. Betty Lou soon married a man named Michael Moats, and life in their new home became frightening. He did not work, drank often, and showed anger without warning. Julia later described him as her biggest family nightmare. Eric Roberts said openly that he feared for his sisters. Scenes of screaming, broken objects, and sudden rage became normal. Julia sometimes lost her treasured things, like her Walkman, because Moats destroyed them when he was angry. She often ran to friends' houses just to feel safe. In time, Betty Lou recognized the danger and filed for divorce in 1983, calling the marriage her biggest mistake. But the damage had already marked Julia's childhood. The pain in that house ran even deeper. Julia's half-sister, Nancy Motis, struggled for years and died by suicide in February 2014 at the age of 37. She drowned in a bathtub after taking a mix of drugs. The coroner confirmed every detail, and the handwritten notes she left behind stirred painful questions. Some people close to the family claimed the notes mentioned long-term bullying and emotional wounds tied to their complicated home. They said Julia's name appeared in them. Julia never addressed those claims directly. She only released a brief statement expressing deep sorrow. But the tragedy revealed how the instability of the Roberts-Moats years kept echoing long after childhood had ended. Julia's father, Walter, passed away in 1977 when she was 10. His death left a gap nothing could fill. Eric, the oldest, spiraled into addiction not long after. He became famous and troubled at the same time, and his behavior scared Julia and Lisa. Eric later admitted they felt real fear around him during those years. Their relationship fractured and stayed that way for decades. Over time, he looked back with regret. In 2024, he apologized publicly, saying his addiction had created chaos that pushed his family away. A part of this rift came from a custody fight. Eric had a daughter, Emma Roberts, born in 1991. When he separated from Emma's mother, Kelly Cunningham, he wanted custody. Julia supported Kelly instead, believing Emma would be safer with her. Eric felt betrayed and lashed out during interviews, but he later admitted Julia had made the right choice. He explained that his addiction was the real reason he lost custody. Time softened the sharpest edges, but the memories never disappeared. Nancy's suicide note brought another layer of pain. Several pages long, it described trauma that stretched back to childhood. Friends of Nancy claimed the notes pointed to years of feeling pushed aside. Whether every detail was accurate or not, the grief was real. And the story made the whole world look again at the cracks in the Roberts family. The coroner confirmed the cause of death as drowning combined with drug use, and the personal notes added a heartbreaking weight that the public could not ignore. Julia kept moving forward. She finished school at Campbell High in May 1985 and dreamed of becoming a veterinarian because she loved animals. But watching Eric act pulled her in a new direction. At 18, she left Georgia for New York City with only a small amount of money and a hope that modeling might pay for acting classes. She signed with the Click Modeling Agency in 1985 and did catalog jobs, but she was not tall enough for runway work. The money was thin, and she soon stepped into improv classes. That choice opened a door she had not fully seen before. By 1986, she started auditioning and trying roles wherever she could find them. Her first acting job came in early 1987 on the crime series Crime Story. She played Tracy, a young rape victim, and the role shocked some of her relatives because of how dark it was. But Julia treated it with care, preparing through workshops and digging into the emotional weight of the part. Her performance surprised people and proved she could handle intense material even at 19. It also helped her get more auditions. Before her film career began, Julia quit modeling entirely. She realized it would never give her the future she wanted. She kept auditioning, kept getting rejected, and kept learning. Through Eric, she landed a tiny role in Blood Red, filmed in 1986 but released in 1989. She had only 2 lines, yet it counted as her first film. She met people, built connections, and learned how sets worked. Meanwhile, she lived on about $300 a month, doing odd jobs and borrowing money when she had to. She attended more than 50 auditions and left each one with either a new hope or a new disappointment. Still, she returned every day, training and trying again. Then things began to shift. In 1988, she appeared in Satisfaction with Liam Neeson and Justine Bateman. She earned $50,000 for the role, which felt unreal compared to her earlier life. Critics noticed the spark she carried even when her acting was still unpolished. She also appeared on Miami Vice as a drug dealer, letting her charisma show in a short but memorable part. By the end of that year, she landed a role in Mystic Pizza, and everything that came before suddenly felt like it had been pointing her in that direction. Julia Roberts stepped into the world of movies in 1988 with Mystic Pizza. She played Daisy Araujo, a young Portuguese-American waitress in a small Connecticut town, and something about her lit up the screen right away. The film cost around $6 million to make and earned more than $12.7 million in the United States, which was a strong win for a low-budget story. People noticed her instantly. Roger Ebert called her a major beauty with fierce energy, and that line started following her everywhere. The movie slowly turned into a cult favorite, and its honest look at young women trying to find their place made people feel seen. Within a few months, Julia found herself being invited to bigger auditions and bigger rooms. It felt like a door had opened and the air changed around her. Then came 1989 and Steel Magnolias, a film that pulled her even closer to the center of Hollywood, yet bruised her spirit in ways no one expected. She played Shelby Eatonton, a diabetic bride whose soft moments became some of the film's strongest scenes. The movie went on to make more than $100 million around the world, but behind the sweetness on screen was something dark. Director Herbert Ross often aimed his frustration at Julia. He mocked her acting. He called her ugly. He even stopped filming once just to shout at her about her lazy acting until she broke down in front of everyone. Sally Field later said Ross went after her with a kind of vengeance that made the whole cast uncomfortable. Still, Julia gathered herself every morning, showed up, and delivered a performance that won her the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress in 1990. She almost walked away from acting, but she stayed. And that choice shaped her future. During that same shoot, the tension went beyond harsh words. Julia pushed for script changes because she felt Shelby's voice deserved honesty. Ross responded by spreading whispers about her weight and acting like she was a diva who did not understand her place. These rumors wrapped around her career at a fragile time. Fans loved her. The movie made more than $100 million, yet inside she was fighting a battle that almost broke her. Hollywood had welcomed her, but it had also shown her its teeth. After that, her next project went through one of the strangest journeys in her career. Fireflies in the Garden was filmed in the late 1980s, but sat on a shelf for almost 20 years because the distributor, Senator Entertainment, went bankrupt. The movie finally appeared at the Berlin International Film Festival in 2008 and reached the United States in 2011 with a small release. During that long pause, Julia used the money she earned from Steel Magnolias and other early films to buy her first home. That simple act showed how the weight of sudden fame pushed her to build something solid, while the industry around her shifted without warning. The role that changed everything came soon after. Pretty Woman was not written with Julia Roberts in mind. Meg Ryan turned it down in 1989, calling the script disturbing. Molly Ringwald passed too, along with several other actresses. When it finally reached Julia, the team tested 6 women, but Julia's mix of warmth and grit made her impossible to ignore. She was paid $300,000, which was shocking considering she had been making around $3,000 per film before this. The money came through her agent's negotiation, not Julia's own voice, but her performance made her the star of 1990. It also changed how Hollywood thought about romantic leads. Vivian was flawed and real, and people loved that. Even the famous red dress almost never existed. The costume designer Marilyn Vance originally wanted a black gown, but something made her switch to red at the last moment. That decision, inspired partly by Julia's love for thrift store fashion, created one of the most iconic looks in film history. The jewelry box snap that made Julia jump and laugh was real. She was not acting. That little surprise became the heart of the scene. The red dress has since been auctioned and copied worldwide, and it helped Vance win a BAFTA. Julia's confidence grew with the film's success. She was offered $2 million for the role, but refused until she was sure she could shape Vivian with a heart of gold. Female stars in 1990 rarely had that power, yet she asked anyway. And she won. Her Golden Globe for the role proved that her choices mattered. Afterward, studios kept offering fairy tale roles, but she pushed herself toward more complex stories because she did not want her range trapped inside a single character type. Pretty Woman exploded at the box office. It made $178 million in the United States and more than $463 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing romantic comedy ever made. Yet even in the middle of that success, tension followed her. She and Richard Gere clashed during filming, mostly because she felt he approached the intimate scenes with a seriousness that made her uneasy. Still, they found a balance, and their chemistry carried the movie. Julia learned how to fight for her comfort and her character at the same time, and audiences could feel that strength. But fame has a price. After the film's release, a man named Jason James Mooney began stalking her. He was arrested in 1991 and later sentenced to 10 years in prison for threatening her. Julia sought therapy for the first time, shaken by how quickly admiration could twist into danger. She was called America's sweetheart, yet she felt trapped between what people wanted her to be and who she knew she was. She had played a prostitute, but now the world expected purity. The contrast confused her. It also pushed her to protect her private life with even more care. Her work in Flatliners that same year brought another challenge. She played a medical student exploring near-death experiences, but when she saw the final cut, she realized many of her important scenes had been removed without her consent. She sued the studio for breach of contract, demanding her original performance be restored. The studio settled quietly. Her win gave actors more ground to stand on when fighting for their creative voice. But the experience showed how easily someone's work could be reshaped without warning. In 1991, she starred in Sleeping with the Enemy, a thriller about a woman escaping an abusive husband. The movie made $175 million worldwide and cemented her place as a box office powerhouse. Still, Julia felt a new fear rising. She worried that Hollywood would keep seeing her as a woman in distress and nothing else. She rejected similar scripts and searched for stories that let her breathe beyond the victim label. Her decisions during that time shaped the next decade of her career. That same year, she accepted the role of Tinkerbell in Hook. But the excitement faded quickly. She was offered $3 million, while Dustin Hoffman received $5 million. She was furious. Negotiations became tense. She walked away and then returned only after securing a better deal. Even then, she disliked the costume and felt disconnected from the role. She and Steven Spielberg clashed, and the film's success of more than $300 million did nothing to fix the distance between them. They have not worked together since. By 1997, she stepped into my best friend's wedding, and the world fell for her again. The movie made $299 million globally. The karaoke scene where she sings "I Say a Little Prayer" was mostly improvised. She convinced the director to let her try things in the moment, and the scene became unforgettable. Behind the fun, though, there was strain. Cameron Diaz felt overshadowed and worried that Julia's presence pulled all the attention toward her. The tension never exploded, but people on set felt it. Hollywood whispered about it for years. 2 years later, she starred with Hugh Grant in Notting Hill. The movie earned $363 million worldwide. Yet the real story sat behind the curtain. Grant later joked about the size of her mouth, and even teased that he heard a faint echo during their kissing scenes. Julia did not laugh. He skipped her wedding. She skipped his. Their relationship stayed cold long after filming wrapped. It surprised people because their on-screen love felt effortless, yet their real connection never found the same rhythm. Julia Roberts stepped into Erin Brockovich in a way that surprised even people who thought they knew how far she could go. She earned $20 million for the film in 2000, becoming the first actress to ever reach that number for one project. She spent 6 months preparing and even gained 15 pounds to look real on screen. She followed the real Erin Brockovich everywhere, listening to how she talked and how she held herself, and she learned the legal language Erin used every day. When the movie came out, something shifted. Her performance pushed past strong names like Ellen Burstyn and Laura Linney at the 73rd Academy Awards and placed her on the stage as the Best Actress winner. People called it one of the greatest Oscar wins ever recorded, and even now it feels like a turning point that stays with her. Right after that win, a story spread that stunned a lot of people. She fired her own agent. She found out he had underpaid her in her early years and that she had lost millions because of it. That betrayal stayed inside her. It gave her a kind of fire while she was working on Erin Brockovich, a fire she later admitted changed her life. Instead of letting the anger swallow her, she shaped it into something powerful and used it to demand what she deserved moving forward. Soon after, Ocean's 11 arrived in 2001. She joined George Clooney and Brad Pitt and insisted that her billing and pay stand equal to theirs. The film crossed $450 million worldwide, and her presence made the trio feel complete. The script even reached her with a single $20 bill inside and a little note from Clooney saying he heard she was getting 20 a picture now. It made her laugh, sure, but she still walked off set once when a joke went too far. She knew what she stood for, and she acted like someone who understood her position and her worth. Then came Mona Lisa Smile in 2003. She earned $25 million for it, another record for a single film. It made $141 million at the box office, but the critics were not kind. They called it predictable and lifeless, and the disappointment settled on her shoulders. She stepped away for almost 2 years because she felt worn out and uncertain. Even a giant like her can feel the weight of a misstep, especially when the world expects perfection on demand. In 2007, she returned in Charlie Wilson's War as Joanne Herring. She earned praise and a Golden Globe nomination, but behind the scenes, she clashed with director Mike Nichols. They disagreed over accent work, and she later said the experience felt soul-crushing. Many said her Texas accent never quite hit the mark. Still, she pushed through and the film stayed alive because of its political story and her ability to draw eyes to a character even when everything around her felt heavy. Her next years came with a mix of hits and risks. In 2004, Ocean's 12 pulled in $363 million, and she even played a version of herself. Behind the scenes, leaked photos of her and Steven Soderbergh stirred rumors and noise across tabloids, rumors that never fully quieted. Then she dared to step onto Broadway in 2006 with 3 Days of Rain. Opening week brought over $1 million, but critics, especially Ben Brantley, tore apart her performance. They said she looked self-conscious and lacked stage depth. The reviews pushed her out sooner than expected, and it became one of those chapters she probably wished had unfolded differently. Stories of diva behavior followed her too. During Closer in 2004, some crew members claimed she requested private jets that cost the studio an extra $120,000. Others whispered about tension with John Malkovich and about her late arrivals causing reshoots. Whether true or not, the rumors created a picture of a star under pressure, someone who sometimes let comfort and control matter more than calm collaboration. Hollywood is a place where stories multiply quickly, and hers did too. When Duplicity arrived in 2009 with Clive Owen, she earned another Golden Globe nomination. She refused nude scenes, which made headlines on their own. But a rumored leak from a changing room turned into a tabloid frenzy. False stories mixed with real ones, and for weeks it felt like people talked more about gossip than the film itself. Still, she kept going because that is what her career always demanded from her. Eat, Pray, Love came in 2010 and became one of her biggest box office wins with $204 million worldwide. She earned $10 million for the role. The story mirrored her own life in some ways after her divorce from Lyle Lovett. Critics called the movie self-indulgent. They said she turned personal pain into spectacle, yet audiences loved it and saw something in her that made them feel understood. It kept her place in culture as someone who could carry a story about healing and make it feel personal. Years later, in 2014, she stepped into the normal heart for HBO. She played Dr. Emma Bruckner in a film that earned 16 Emmy nominations and won 2. She was nominated herself, making her one of only 4 women ever to receive both an Oscar and an Emmy nomination for acting in the same year. The movie aired on May 25, 2014, to more than 1.4 million viewers. She even shaved her head for authenticity. Behind the scenes, she pushed for more brutal honesty about the AIDS crisis and argued that some moments were too sanitized. It led to script changes and showed how deeply she cared about telling the truth. Then came Homecoming in 2018, her first real series lead. It premiered on November 2nd, and her performance as Heidi Bergman became one of the highlights of the streaming world that year. She fought to protect the tension of the show and even fired writers she felt were weakening the story. Season 1 reached a 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and cemented her move into television with confidence. In 2022, she starred in Ticket to Paradise with George Clooney. It made $168 million worldwide. Her role in Gaslit the same year sparked controversy for whitewashing Martha Mitchell's story, especially as Roberts openly supported President Biden. The movie itself earned mixed reviews and sat at 54% on Rotten Tomatoes, showing how divided audiences felt about her at that moment. Then, in 2023, she appeared in Leave the World Behind, released December 8th, produced by Barack and Michelle Obama. The film crossed $100 million and became one of Netflix's most watched originals of the year. But tension on set was real. Her character's buried racism became a major thread and caused friction between her and Ethan Hawke. Scenes were rewritten. The conflict deepened. Even the director confirmed that the atmosphere was tense and that the rewrites reflected the emotional clash. After that came After the Hunt in summer 2025. It was meant to be bold and timely, telling the story of a professor facing harassment allegations. Instead, it flopped. It made only $5.6 million against a budget between $70 and $80 million. Critics gave it 38% on Rotten Tomatoes and questioned the handling of the subject. She still received a Visionary Award that year, but the movie raised debates about her recent choices. Her personal life also carried stories that people still talk about. In June 1993, she shocked everyone by marrying country singer Lyle Lovett after just 3 weeks of dating. The wedding happened on June 27th in Indiana with only 75 guests. She was filming The Pelican Brief and had just 3 days off, so everything was arranged in 48 hours. Even the license was signed on his tour bus so the press would not find them. They divorced after 21 months in March 1995, and the media called them Hollywood's oddest mismatch. In 2000, she met Danny Moder on the set of The Mexican. He was still married, and she was dating Benjamin Bratt. Their relationship sparked a storm. Moder's wife called her a husband stealer. People said Roberts wore a shirt that said "Aloe Vera" to mock her, though she denied it. She married Moder in July 2002 after his divorce was final, and their marriage lasted more than 20 years. In 2023, she learned through Finding Your Roots that her fourth great-grandfather, Edward Townsend, owned enslaved people who worked on a 2,000-acre farm. Ages ranged from 6 to 33. She looked shaken as she listened and said, "You cannot turn your back on history." She had converted to Hinduism in 2010, and the moment tied into her search for truth and accountability. She used it to speak about facing uncomfortable family histories. In 2024, she reconciled with her brother Eric Roberts after years of distance caused by addiction issues and a custody dispute over Emma. Her net worth, around $250 million, helped her build Red Om Films, which produced projects like the American Girl films. Her influence grew not only as an actress, but as a business force. And even with whispers about her behavior, even with unconfirmed stories of her slapping co-stars, her legacy still rises above the noise. People magazine named her the most beautiful woman 5 times. She pushed for pay equity long before it became a public movement. She received a Knight of Arts honor in 2025. Through every rumor and every triumph, she became someone people watched not just because she was a star, but because she held on to her place with a mix of strength, stubbornness, and heart.